Welcome back to Revolution Parts. I'm Ted Ings. This is the How to Crush Obsolescence Before Year-End panel with our retail superstar. Shon Kingrey is here from the Kaiser Automotive Group in Madison, Wisconsin. Benjamin Hanak is here, e-commerce performance specialist at Revolution Parts, and Anthony Bluebello, e-commerce performance specialist at Revolution. Gentlemen, welcome back to the panel, and great to have you with us today.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
having us, Ted.
Shon, let me get things started, if it's okay with you. Talking about year-end obsolescence. Shon, how much are dealers really paying to hold on to old or even dead inventory? And could be things like taxes would they be eating into the margins even more than you realize?
You know, Ted, the timing is perfect because as we go into the end of the year, obviously everybody's doing inventories. We all know that. And I think as far as dead inventories with parts now, it's probably more focused than ever because with the way variables going and so much focus on fixed and absorption, everybody's paying attention to every dollar. What's the second biggest investment any dealer has? It's parts inventory. We all know that. You know, first is your car inventory, obviously, but you got floor plan for that. You own your parts inventory. It's not floored. You own that, and it's dead expense. You know, our biggest location has a $1.6 million inventory. If you don't control that, that runs away from you in a real big hurry. And you know, the OEMs, you know, RIM or whatever we're going to call it, depending on the manufacturer, is not your friend. You can't forget that. They're not there to help you. All right. You forget to return that part at 9, 12, or 14, 15 months. You own that part, guys. It's not coming back. It's yours forever. And how much is it controlling it? It's been how much you allow it to do it. I know Anthony, before we came on, made a joke about the 9-month rule or the 12-month rule. Guys, that rule needs to be hard and fast. That's not a negotiable number. As we look at, and Tully's going to pick on me, by the way, Ted, but as we look at hours per RO and effective labor rate and all those things, those old matrix, you need to talk about your parts obsolescence in the exact same conversation on a daily basis. When you have a leaderboard and it talks about how much you're selling per RO and how much you're doing, you need to hold parts accountability and inventory to the exact same standard, especially now that some of the OEMs are finally bringing back purchase discounts. What you do with that purchase discount, and I don't want to get far ahead of ourselves here, what you do with that purchase discount and what you do when you do inventory at the end of the year and you have a surplus. Listen, I'm all about paying the parts manager on him running his inventory correctly and keeping and controlling that money and him getting it. He doesn't get that money until he doesn't have obsolescence. And I know the OEMs have 14-month numbers, and that's a number we can argue about till we're blue in the face. But you have to control the inventory. And before they get their money, I want my inventory controlled first.
Anthony, I see you shaking your head if you want to weigh in on this as well.
I'm laughing first off because we mentioned Tully's name without the word retention anywhere around it. So, I mean, listen, only because I did say the word retention. Having retention is having parts to keep the cars going, to have the technicians to keep moving, to make your billable hours, customer pay hours. Parts is such a it's such a strict section of the dealership that it's got to be maintained properly. So, you know, think about COVID times when we used to buy up a bunch of stuff or when we were kind of going back and forth. You'd buy 3, 4, 6, 9 months worth of fast movers that would normally be in your 30-day category. Or if you guys have like automatic replenishment, there's all types of different acronyms, but you know, your S1, your S2, your S3, you know, your 1, 2, 3s, which is your 30, 60, 90, which is kind of, you know, your fastest, like, you know, these are the ones that you basically cannot run out of those, right? You bring in a car that's 2, 3 years old. You don't have an oil filter, microfilter, wipers for that car. I mean, what are you doing back there? Why do you even have your job at that point? You know, not to sound rude here, but going to obsolescence, I was shaking my head because somebody said 14 months at one point. 14 months is just insane. I'm a 9-month guy personally. You know, I look at 9 months and it's like if 9 months puts a little bit of a stress on it, and then at 12 months, it's really stressing. Now, we have a lot of definitive factors that come into play with obsolescence. You got techs ordering wrong parts. You got parts guys ordering wrong parts. You got automatic replenishment that you didn't catch to get taken out of the order screen. So I don't want to get too far off the realm here, but, you know, being prepared, especially like Shon was just saying, we have inventory coming up, or maybe you just did inventory, but you're looking at 2020, the next year to be a little bit cleaner, 2026. it's, you got to make it clean. You got to keep it clean. Going back to his what Shon was just saying about inventory, whether you got $1 million or 100,000, everybody's got a percentage, right? To me, 1 to 3 is like the max for 9 to 12. If you got 12 to 14, 12 to 18, whatever, maybe 24 to 36, I mean, that better be under 1%. That's all I know. And at that point, you're using a cost minus sometimes, or maybe I would do cost plus at like 9 to 12 months, whether it's cost plus 3, cost plus 5. But, if it's 12 to 18, I'm going cost negative, because just like the sales department with cars sitting there, you're paying interest.
Yes.
In theory, you have to incentivize people to buy these parts to get rid of them, because you need to be clean next year. And I don't know about you guys, every year is a competition for your own job. You have to keep it clean. And, whether we want to talk about taxes cutting in your margins, that could be more marketplace related. Whether we want to talk about budgetizing getting into your margins, either way, obsolescence, it's got to be clean. I don't care if you're losing money or making money. But to the parts managers that are writing it off and throwing it in the dumpster, I mean, they kind of have a point if it's 36 months old, but, it's a different story when you're a lot less.
Ben, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Well, listening to this, Shon talk about the inventory dollar count, we were rolling at $3.4 million, and we had about 265,000 sitting in that inventory that was obsolete over 9 months. Very difficult to get rid of. We did a buy sell like 10 years prior, and we bought another dealer's inventory at 50 cents on the dollar. And unfortunately, a lot of part numbers stayed in our inventory, appreciated value. We had a tough time getting through that. But even with that type of inventory, $3.4 million,
Oh,
$265,000 is not a lot, right? Doesn't sound like a lot,
no.
but think about that. That's money in the bank that can't be used. The dealership cannot use that for repairs on the building. They can't use it for wages. They can't use it for new equipment for the
Right.
techs. And $265,000 doesn't denote the size of a package, right? So the size of a package, you could have 15 hoods sitting in your warehouse, taking up all that geographical space. Now, if you could get rid of that, then you could free up space for more productive inventory.
Shon, I want to come back to you. Your thoughts, and at this time of year, as we are in the fourth quarter, should you be making space now on those shelves for incoming model year parts?
Well, it's a good question, but because they're coming automatically anyway. I want to peel something
Yeah.
apart that Benjamin just said. Listen, in the world that we live in now, in buy sells, because buy sells are happening everywhere all the time. The big groups are getting bigger. We all know that. The mom and pops are really getting squeezed. One thing, and where I come from in Florida, as Ted's well aware of, we went from 4 to 22 stores, and I learned a lot in that 5 years. And I can't say this enough for those dealer principals or general managers that are listening. To Benjamin's point, that $265,000 he's talking about when you buy a part, when you do, first of all, you're going to get an ISO, which is an initial stock order. They're going to send it to you. Okay, you can ask for forgiveness from the manufacturer to take some parts back. Sometimes they will if you do an ISO. Not my point. My point being that $265,000, you're thinking, oh, it's no big deal when we're paying 10, 11, $12 million for a store. It's a huge deal to a parts manager when you're talking about a $1 or $2 million inventory. Guys, that's a percentage. Yes, it may start at 0, but if it was at 12 plus, or to Anthony's point, 9 plus for them, it's going to be 9 plus for you in a year. And after a buy sell, a year goes by so quickly, who cares about it? All right. And then you got an ISO and a return off of the RIM original order. Here's my buy sell rule. And again, we did this at this group, and Ted's aware of this. We did it with this group where we bought a store in southern Wisconsin, and he had a very large quantity of obsolete parts. And he's like, well, you're buying those parts. No, we're not. If you can't return them, we don't want them in the buy sell. And again, if a $265,000 keeps you from buying the dealership, that's a point you have to talk about, because it's deadly to an inventory. It's deadly to a parts manager. It's the monkey on the shoulder that doesn't get any better. So Ted, not to get away from the question of what we're looking at in 2026, you better have a business plan of 2026. Again, especially in the world of buy sells that we're all in. Buy sells really don't mean a lot. It used to be when you bought his dealership, you cleared house and everybody lost their jobs. that there's not replacements anymore. So the chances are the crew that's there is going to stay there. And they know the ugly monkey they have on the back. They know their dirty laundry. They know the baby's ugly. Get rid of the baby. Peel the Band-Aid off. Call it what it is, and get rid of the dead inventory. And looking forward to 2026 as you're doing inventory, or to Anthony's point, you just completed an inventory. Listen, you need to look at your books. You need to look at the numbers. If the baby's ugly, own it and deal with it. Make it go away. And I'm going to get way off a sidetrack here. You can build, in most DMSs now, you can build $5 for every to Anthony's point, we're not talking about oil filters and wiper blades and air filters. For every hard part, every repair part, build a $5 pack. By the way, variable and fixed aren't that much different. Okay. To Anthony's point, we're talking about dead inventory on the lot. Dead inventory and parts is the exact same thing. But you put a $5 pack on every hard part that you sell, and that money goes to obsolescence write-off. Guys, at the end of the year, you don't have an obsolescence problem. Okay. I know it's thinking outside the box. But then you tell the parts manager, listen, at the end of the year, if there's a surplus of 20 grand, you get it back. Well, everybody's invested in it at that point. And in the end, you put a hard pack on every car on the lot's got a hard pack on the variable side. Put a pack on your parts. Put that money aside for obsolescence. Get rid of the dead inventory.
Anthony, I was going to say, all three of you have related this in one way or another to the used car department, to the inventory that the dealer is keeping close tabs on, that we want to make sure is Shon, I'll say frontline ready quickly. Yeah. But after 15 days and 30 days, the gross profit on that vehicle diminishes rapidly. Anthony, it's the same in the parts department.
It's so funny, though, how much we compare each department, right? Because they're so profitable. But I feel like a lot of people don't put parts at the level as sales or service. When in actuality, when you look at gross, a lot of times parts departments can make the same amount of gross. But either way, as we're preparing, getting new inventory, moving stuff out, yes. To Ben's point with the sizes things, you got to get those big items out of there. If you're not making strategy, let's say freight, you got big parts, maybe you can't return sheet metal. Get a dispatch center. Look into selling freight. Look into dispatch centers that'll move freight for you. So that way, all you gotta do is put on a pallet and they'll pick it up. If you can't sell it and you can't return it, you got to do something with it, And if you're scratching your head, oh, I got all this dead inventory. It's all about game plan. Shon just said it. You have to make a game plan. You have to think about it. And I love his idea with putting money in an account. It kind of reminds me of like a handling fee or a shipping fee, some form of a fee to put some money aside. I think, Shon, you gave away some secret sauce right there, man. That's but in theory, we're all doing it. We're all doing it. When I was on the back counter, we would put shop supply, but in my state, you have to itemize it. So what do you generally need for brakes? Anti-seize, an acid brush, some zip ties, and a razor blade. Boom, we put those in there, put it cost at a penny, charge $9, and then all the shop supplies just gets eaten into, B346, and then you route that money to it on a customer pay line. So, we all know how to move the dollars around. I do love that idea, but when you're stuck with something, you want to actually get rid of it. You actually want to sell it. I think it's great though, Shon. I'm not diminishing your thought process here. That is a great idea. Numbers wise, because the numbers don't lie, right? And when your comp controller comes down, you could have clean inventory, but you could have a pile of stuff you just wrote off that you're like, yeah, I'm going to try and sell it and, put that money back. Listen, it's 50-50 if you ask me. I've done it with snow tire packages that were 2 years old. I've done it with pardon my French, I've done it with roof racks and roof boxes that got moved to 4 different cars on the showroom floor. I get it. It's hard to move certain things, so you do get stuck with it. But just like sales says, there's a butt for every seat. Same thing with parts. Somebody's going to buy it. So this is where you game plan. To Shon's point, that 18 months, in 6 months is now going to be 24. So we're going cost minus, or you're building yourself enough revenue in a let's call it an offshore account in your DMS, and you're going to write it off. And who knows? I used to call body shops and be like, hey, I got this, and this. Slow movers. I'll give it to you for this. Whatever there's game plan, there's effort, there's momentum, yes. There's, all that just needs to be put into play, because that new inventory, whether it's new model year, new recalls, new ARs, automatic replenishments, you got to be prepared for it.
Shon, the dealer can relate to your suggestion there. That doesn't even have to be explained to the dealer because they've been in the used car business and new car business for a long time.
Well, and it's funny because to his point, and you made a point, Ted, that we're relating it to used cars. It's like when you sell a radiator, not selling a coolant flush or a coolant service at the same time. They've been package selling in F&I for how many years? It just took fixed operations 50 years to figure out that we should do the same thing. You're putting a pack on it, and again, to Anthony's point, it's not about building a slush account. When I take that $5 per hard part, that's coming off of his margin, because hopefully your parts managers are paid off the bottom line. I'm going to make it hurt. And listen, hopefully it's not forever, because sooner or later they're going to fix their obsolescence problem, or you need to fix your personnel problem, one or the other. And once they get it fixed, they learn how to control it, and it's in control. You can take that and reduce that $5 to $2 to $1 to 50 cents, whatever it is. Because again, you're going to have misordered parts. You're going to have parts that you just made a mistake on, whatever. That helps you account for all those and make those go away.
Ben, I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, I'm listening to these guys talk about this, and one of the things that is glaring to me is one, measuring and managing your aged inventory, having a measurement strategy that really aligns with what you're trying to do is key, but also having clear training for your employees. You have to have employees that can think forward and know that, hey, if I don't pay attention and I don't look this part up correctly, or I don't do this or do that right, they're going to add to your obsolescence. So that, I mean, and then employing strategies in the service drive with the warranty parts orders and so on. These parts, they just sit on the shelf, they take up space. You have to constantly move them around. You pay people every year to count these parts. Adds to the length of time it takes to get through an inventory.
Yes.
I spent an entire weekend at the dealership with my camper outside to spend 3 days to count $3.4 million in inventory, and 265,000 of it. Can you imagine if we didn't have to touch that?
Ben and Anthony, I want to come to you on this next question because it talks about using digital channels to help move some of this inventory, like marketplaces. Ben, first, what tools or tactics have you seen used to turn that obsolete inventory into revenue, real revenue, especially using the e-commerce platforms?
Okay, as far as e-commerce goes, like there's dealerships and other dealer groups around the country that will buy
Yeah.
inactive inventory at 50 cents on the dollar or a quarter on the dollar. But one of the things, if you can list your items that are obsolete on eBay or a web store or any other kind of e-commerce at bottom dollar at cost or cost less, whatever, you have the opportunity to actually make money on the shipping of that part. You can mark up your shipping, ship that part to that customer, and then you can actually turn that into a revenue source. That also gives you a point of contact with the customer that you wouldn't have normally had. Now, I realize they're buying an obsolete part. It might be an armrest for, a 10-year-old vehicle. But the next time they buy a vehicle and the next time they need a part or anytime their family needs a part, they're like, hey, why don't you reach out to xyz.com and they'll take good care of you.
Yeah. Anthony, that's a pretty good suggestion. Your thoughts?
I that is amazing suggestion. I can't agree with you more on that. Being that I came from like more of a retail end, I love Ben's idea. Don't get me wrong, but my approach was more towards trying to get B2C, business to consumer. I would go on the forums. I mean, these guys know more about these cars than I do. I would go on the forums and just throw some stuff out there, throw some pictures. I had Instagram on my cell phone. It was a work account, but I would take a picture, boom. I mean, anything I could, if it needed to go,
Wow.
that's where my energy was, whether it's an hour, 2 hours a day, or 1 hour a week, whatever. It's hitting all those digital platforms that are free. They don't cost you anything but time, but they are free. And as far as like the social media stuff, people are like, oh, I don't want to use my work email. Guess what? I started a Google business account. And then I use that Google business for all the social media and the forum logins. And so that way, and the other cool thing, and I might be a little smidge off track here, but with the Google business account, you can actually put your online e-commerce store, or maybe you have an eBay store, whatever you want. You
Yes.
could drop a pin on it. And now if people look up your website, they're going to see you got a physical location. How many other sites have that? So I just gave away my secret sauce, Sean. So I'm right there with you.
The Google My Business, Anthony, that's a very, very strong platform that's underutilized by a lot of dealerships. Shon, very refreshing to hear what Ben and Anthony have to say.
It is, and it's a nice to look because, and again, Anthony, I know came from my side of the house on the retail side because you do get tunnel vision. You don't want to, but you get the blinders on and you think one path, and you got to think outside the box. You just have to.
Gentlemen, final question on this topic. Is your inventory working for you strategically or just taking up space? How can a smarter cleanup now set you up for a stronger Q1 in 2026? Ben, let me come to you first, and then Anthony, and then Shon to bring it home.
Okay. Yeah. So having a clean inventory going into the new model year, there are going to be new model items that your manufacturer is going to suggest that you stock. And we all know that playing the game with the manufacturer and getting all the back end money that you possibly can is very important to the dealership. If you don't have room to store those parts, or if you're cramming them into overcrowded bins, and you're not very productive. Also, when the technician comes to the counter to get a part, if you can't find it because it's crammed in with a bunch of other parts, you're going to hold up productivity. You're going to have an angry customer, an unhappy service manager, and worse, you're going to have an unhappy technician that's not going to let you live this down.
Great point, Ben. Very true. Very real world. Anthony.
Not only will that technician not let you down on it, when you do finally find it, they're going to be like, "Did you reorder this?" It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. No matter what point of life that we're talking about, whether it's parts or your own physical well-being,
Sure.
it's easier to maintain than it is to completely just rewrite the book. So if you can clean it up in Q4, start with a clean slate in Q1, and then just do your best to maintain it. And it's not really looking at reports every single day. It's just being cognizant of everything that's going on. Because, if you sell a new part the first day in January, your automatic replenishment is going to pick it up. You got to pay attention when you're looking at that report. I don't know if every manufacturer does it, but my manufacturer used to send me a proposed, SRD report or automatic replenish report. So I could look at it, edit it, and then once again, I don't know if every manufacturer is the same, but that report, whatever they gave me, that was free returns as long as I accepted what was on there. So think about that. When it hits 9-12 months, I can now supply it and get a free return out of it. So I'm buying stuff to get my volume, to get the back end money Ben was just talking about. I mean, we still have quotas to hit. You still have return percentages to hit. There's also, it's such a big puzzle. You got to look at each one of them so strategically, and it's playing their game.
I'm really enjoying the perspective of you three gentlemen. It's all a little different, but you have some great information. Shon, how can you bring us home here to close out 2025?
Quickly and simply, accountability, guys. Don't let the only time you look at inventory being November, December when you do inventory. Your inventory has to be a 12-month deal. And I don't want to go against Anthony here. Don't look good every day. But guys, if you look at it once a week, for the dealer principals of the world and the general managers and the fixed ops directors of the world, oh, well, I can't do 9 months. By the way, Anthony, I wish 9 month was the creed now. But they use the automatic replenishment as an excuse. Well, they don't take it back for 15 months. Good. Let's exclude those 5 months of parts on those parts. But what about all the other parts for 9 months? Let's hold them accountable. So it's just like the service drive on month end. If you do it every Friday, month end's just another day. If you do accountability and bin checks and you look at your inventory all year long, inventory is just another day that you're paying somebody to count, which you already know you have. No surprises.
Gentlemen, great information. Thank you so much for your time today. Shon Kingrey from the Kaiser Automotive Group, Ben Hanak from Revolution Parts, Anthony Bluebello as well from Revolution. For more information, revolutionparts.com, the authority in this revolutionary era of parts. Everybody, I'm Ted Ings, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ted.